Surviving the scorching African wilderness means walking a constant tightrope between life and certain death. Out here in the unforgiving wasteland, a single careless step can quickly turn into a fatal mistake. Gliding silently over the blistering terrain, a highly venomous spitting cobra is actively on the prowl. Farther down the dunes, a busy family of meerkats is just starting their daily hunt for sustenance. Distracted by the endless search, one curious little individual wanders away from the safety of its pack. This lone scout is completely oblivious, having absolutely no idea what dark fate is waiting just ahead. A lethal, cold-blooded menace is rapidly closing the unseen distance toward the vulnerable mammal. Suddenly, the frantic desert activity pauses, giving way to an absolute, suffocating moment of total stillness. The wandering furry scout and the venomous reptile finally cross paths, coming face to face in the sand. Refusing to yield a single inch, both natural enemies hold their ground with fierce, unblinking determination. Preparing for an imminent strike, the little forager drops down and flattens its body against the earth. In a terrifying response, the serpent rears up from the dust and fully extends its warning hood. With the tension snapping, the inevitable, violent clash between these two fierce survivors suddenly explodes into action. Under the brutal, relentless heat of the midday sun, a desperate and exhausting struggle for survival ensues. The oppressive, scorching environment makes this desperate desert brawl even more grueling for the combatants. Hissing and heavy breathing fill the arid air as the two fiercely circle one another. Pushing their bodies to the absolute limit, they fight through the sweltering, unforgiving midday conditions. Without any warning, the deadly reptile unleashes its terrifying secret weapon right at its furry opponent. A fine, toxic spray of liquid shoots violently through the dry space separating the rival. Core moving too fast to dodge, the poisonous mist finds its mark and strikes the scout directly. Coma's searing agony instantly blindsides the little warrior as the harsh venom takes its cruel, blinding effect. Coma overwhelmed by the intense burning sensation, the injured mammal loses its footing on the shifting sands. Coma, the wounded creature, clumsily reels backward away from the scaled predator, desperately trying to recover. Core, realizing the immense danger of the situation, the solitary animal knows it cannot win this alone. Core, suddenly, a remarkably sharp, high-pitched shriek violently shatters the surrounding silence of the barren desert wasteland. Core, the desperate scout, sends out an urgent distress signal to the rest of its distant family. Core, this frantic, ringing cry carries far across the sandy dunes, warning of the venomous intruder. The echoing scream installed the scattered foraging pack that one of their own faces grave peril. In this unforgiving, sun-scorched wasteland, a single careless misstep can instantly invite a deadly encounter. A highly venomous serpent slithers silently over the blistering dunes, hunting for its next victim. Further down the arid plains, the rest of the meerkat family is busy scouring the landscape for their daily meal. Wandering away from the safety of its relatives, a lone scout remains entirely oblivious to the creeping danger. This hidden predator is dangerously near, and for a terrifying split second, the entire environment falls deathly quiet. Suddenly coming face to face, the two wild adversaries lock eyes, with both stubbornly refusing to retreat an inch. Dropping low into a defensive crouch, the furry mammal braces itself, while the massive reptile fiercely flares its menacing neck. Fueled by raw survival instincts beneath the blazing sun, the inevitable and violent clash finally erupts. Core, without warning, a lethal stream of toxic liquid shoots out from the snake's fangs, slicing through the heavy air. Core, struck directly by the searing poison, the tiny mammal reels backward, visibly overwhelmed by a sudden wave of blinding agony. It is in this excruciating moment that the injured scout unleashes that desperate, piercing cry for backup. Answering the frantic plea for help, dozens of enraged family members immediately swarm the battlefield from all sides. Now completely surrounded, the solitary reptile is forced to face the combined, screaming fury of a united mob. As the chaotic and brutal skirmish wages on, the momentum of the fight slowly begins to turn against the serpent. The fierce battle rages onward, evolving into a relentless and unpredictable clash of wills. With every passing second, the upper hand violently swings back and forth between the snake and the pack, who have a dizzying flurry of lightning-fast strikes is traded wildly in the swirling dust. Whoever aggressive snorts cut through the tension as the exhausted combatants fiercely collide time after time. Whoever the cornered reptile lashes out with deadly precision, trying desperately to break the overwhelming wall of fur. Whoever but the highly agile family counters almost immediately, landing rapid punishing blows of their own. Whoever intense shrieks of aggression ring out repeatedly as the mammals coordinate their chaotic swarming assault. Whoever the battlefield fills with the sounds of heavy panting, exposing the immense physical toll this brawl is taking. Whoever pained groans emerge from the dusty melee as fierce bites and desperate defensive strikes find their marks. Whoever, despite being severely outnumbered, the venomous intruder stubbornly refuses to simply surrender its ground. In response, the mob relentlessly presses their attack, forcing the serpent into an exhausting defensive frenzy. Every desperate lunge is quickly met with a swift dodge and a screaming counterstrike from the united clan. Visibly battered and breathing heavily, both sides are now locked in a truly grueling test of pure endurance. This frantic struggle shows absolutely no signs of stopping, leaving the ultimate victor still hanging in the balance. Crouching low to the dusty earth, a lone meerkat locks eyes with the snake just as it flares its intimidating hood. Without another moment of hesitation, the brutal confrontation abruptly erupts into a violent blur of motion. Suddenly, a deadly mist of venom shoots through the sweltering air, catching the brave mammal completely off guard. Struck by the blinding toxic spray, the injured defender stumbles backward, reeling from the intense flash of agony. In immediate response to the crisis, a frantic, piercing alarm shriek cuts right through the tense atmosphere. Hearing the desperate cry for assistance, the rest of the colony rapidly swarms into the battle zone from every conceivable angle. The solitary, dangerous reptile now finds itself completely surrounded, forced to confront the united, overwhelming might of the family. As the chaotic skirmish fiercely presses forward, the upper hand swings wildly back and forth between the two desperate factions. Dust kicks up amidst the furious shrieks, turning the battlefield into a dizzying whirlwind of teeth and scales. Through the constant groans and frantic panting, the relentless clash pushes both opponents dangerously close to their absolute physical limits. One agile fighter manages to narrowly slip out of the strike zone, momentarily breaking free from the suffocating pressure. However, fending off this constant, overwhelming barrage of coordinated attacks eventually starts to wear down the solitary reptile. With every passing second, the once lightning-fast Cobra noticeably begins to tire, struggling to maintain its incredibly grueling defensive pace. A sudden mist of deadly liquid slices through the dusty air as the cornered serpent forcefully counterattacks. The blinding spray finds its mark, forcing one of the bold attackers to stagger backward in sudden agony. Immediately, a frantic, piercing shriek slices through the desert stillness, serving as a desperate cry for backup. Responding instantly to the distress signal, the rest of the furry mob surges forward from every conceivable angle. It quickly transforms into a wildly unbalanced fight, pitting a single venomous reptile against the combined might of an entire pack. The chaotic brawl rages on relentlessly, with the tactical advantage swinging wildly back and forth between the combatants. Under the scorching sun, the sweltering air is filled with the frantic sounds of hissing, screaming, and relentless strikes. Gasping for a brief reprieve, the battered snake manages to weave out of the frantic dog pile. "I'm free!" However, the escape is short-lived, as exhaustion completely weighs down its movements. "I can't do that," the defeated creature seems to realize. Ultimately, the sheer numbers prove too much to handle, and the relentless mammal crew claims their hard-fought victory. Out here in the unforgiving wilderness, every single resource is fiercely utilized, and absolutely nothing is left to rot. The fallen predator is swiftly claimed as a crucial meal, providing essential nourishment for the victorious clan. Soon, only bare remnants will be swallowed by the shifting dunes. As the ruthless cycle of nature marches onward, the entire family unit surges forward without hesitation, aggressively swarming their target in a highly coordinated assault. A single deadly serpent is abruptly forced to defend itself against the overwhelming, unified power of the furious mob. Deafening shrieks and frantic squeals instantly echo across the dunes as the violent, dusty confrontation erupts. The intense brawl drags on relentlessly, with neither side willing to back down from the brutal, close-quarters skirmish. Momentum constantly swings back and forth, turning the sandy arena into a highly unpredictable and chaotic battlefield. Beating down upon the frantic combatants, the oppressive desert sun adds a suffocating layer of extreme warmth to the fight. This scorching temperature continuously radiates from the ground, baking the animals as they maintain their vicious, exhausting dance. Frantic cries pierce the heavy, boiling air, while both the reptile and mammals desperately push through the blistering conditions. Exhausted groans and heavy, ragged panting reveal the immense physical toll this endless struggle is taking on everyone involved. Searching for a tiny gap in the swirling chaos, the cornered snake makes a desperate decision. "All right, I am getting out." Pushing through the sweltering haze and deafening noise, the serpent executes a sudden, determined lunge for open space. Amidst a flurry of panicked squeaks and snapping jaws, the scaled creature miraculously slips past the thick, furry barricade. Gliding onto the untouched sand, the battered snake experiences a brief, hopeful moment of liberation. "I am finally free." The intense desert temperature continues to beat down mercilessly, draining the last reserves of the escapee's energy. Despite its initial burst of hope, exhaustion heavily creeps into the serpent's movements, making every slither a monumental effort. Heavy, defeated breaths signal that the long, brutal confrontation has finally taken its absolute toll on the reptile. Realizing the grim reality of its fading strength, the venomous snake gives up. "I simply cannot do this anymore." With their enemy's defenses completely shattered, the relentless furry mob quickly closes back in to finish the job. In a final flurry of coordinated strikes, the resilient mammals overwhelm their exhausted prey, leaving no chance for escape. Ultimately, the determined meerkats emerge victorious from the grueling standoff, securing a hard-fought triumph in the scorching heat. Out here in this unforgiving and arid wasteland, absolutely everything serves a vital purpose, and nothing is left discarded. The fallen predator is quickly transformed into essential, life-saving sustenance for the hungry and victorious clan. Soon, only scattered white fragments will remain, slowly sinking beneath the golden dunes to enrich the earth. It is a brutally efficient ecosystem, ensuring that the eternal cycle of survival quietly continues without a single pause. The harsh reality of nature plays out perfectly, proving that every tragic ending merely fuels another creature's tomorrow. If this dramatic struggle for survival kept you on the edge of your seat, subscribe for more incredible wildlife stories.